state of emergency. The new law authorizes all members of a public body to continue participating in meetings remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location remains suspended. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the Conservation Commission agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Supporting materials that have been provided to members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. This meeting will feature public comment. After commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda, the chair will open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call of the members. I will now confirm which commission members are present. Ed?
I'm here.
Jim?
Here.
Janine?
Present.
Ted?
Ted is present.
Heather?
We are not expecting Heather tonight.
Okay, and Matt, I think we are anticipating him potentially late. So Matt and Heather are not here yet, and I myself, Melissa, am here. I will now confirm staff that are present. Judy,
Present.
Anna,
Present.
and Joe.
Present.
All right. That being said, Judy, I think I gave you sharing ability, right? Yep.
Does that look okay?
Yeah, now we got it.
Sorry, my computer's running real slow tonight.
Okay. So we have quite a few hearings that have been crossed off our agenda tonight. So just so everyone's aware, I'll run through those first. Ravenwood LLC, 0 Wood Street, 495 Interstate Off-Road 495, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation has been continued based on the applicant's request to March 25th. The Wall Street Development, 12 North Mill, both of those notice of intent applications have been continued to March 25th. And Lee 30 West Main Street, 0 West Main Street, 0 Elm Street notice of intent has also been continued to March 25th. So we won't be discussing any of those tonight. So moving down to the work session items. We did cross off the June 25th because we just didn't, that marathon meeting did not quite get wrapped up. To present to the commission for tonight's review, but we do have the February 25th, 2025. Does anyone on the commission have any comments on these or need additional time to review?
No.
No, okay. So that being said, we'll go ahead and vote, or can I get a motion to approve the February 25th, 2025 minutes?
So moved.
And I'll make a second. Oh, or Ed will.
All in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
and I am also an aye. We're all set there. Next up, we will go to Toll Brothers, Elmwood Farms, 3 notice of violation from March 5th, 2025 storm. I guess I'll have go ahead and let Judy or Anna talk through this one. This was the rain event we had last week.
Or through the chair.
Yes.
Yep, so Anna and I witnessed turbid runoff again, leaving the site on March 6th after the heavy rains on the 5th. We did know that the off-site basins on Blueberry have been silty from the previous violations in December, but hadn't seen new silt entering the basins prior to the 6th. So there was new silt coming off the site entering the basins, continuing downstream past Blueberry. So the pictures I have up here, the roadway on Fitch was pretty filthy. Silty water kind of surrounding that problem catch basin that was causing issues in December. This is the first sort of inlet pipe into the first offsite basin, so that was coming in silty. New silt deposited in the basin, basin looking pretty silted out. This is the second smaller one further down Blueberry. And then the outlet that comes out of that last basin and continues past Blueberry. We didn't follow it way back into the woods this time, but it was coming out silty. The applicants, so Ted had said they weren't able to clean the silt out of the basins while they were frozen. So that's why we were kind of trying to see if new silt was entering the first basin, which it did seem that it was. So again, Fitch was looking pretty dirty, lots of loose silt on the roadway, and a lot of the wattles lining the roadway were in disrepair, so ripped up, not continuous along the full extent of the disturbance. And yeah, happy to answer other questions or if Anna has anything to add.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jade. Thanks, Anna, for going out and checking that out. I walked around there also on Sunday and it was disappointing. So I believe we have Rich and Ted on the line here. And I'll give them an opportunity to speak before the commission weighs in.
Thanks, Anna. If I could share my screen, that would be great. Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental on the line tonight. Ted Merchant from Toll Brothers. Obviously, we're very disappointed to see the turbidity coming off the site after the overnight rain last week, Wednesday into Thursday. I was out there first thing Thursday morning to take a look at things, as was Par, the commission's consultant there. I had talked with the contractor, and it seems there are a number of items that led to the offsite discharge of turbid water, but the primary one was the outlet control structure at the offsite basin, which was intended to retain all of the runoff coming from this site. If the commission recalls, after the release at the end of December and early January, we met with you and implemented a number of measures to try and prevent this from happening again. They included blocking up the outlet control structure, spreading seed, straw, and tackifier over large sections of the site that had been opened up, or the areas of the site that had been opened up, installing flock logs in some of the catch basin, the downstream pipes in some of the catch basins, and installing silt fence and compost sock along portions of Fitch Road. Since then, we implemented additional items, including installing temporary basins and temporary diversion swales along the pavement intended to collect and capture any runoff that was coming off the site. This particular storm came pretty much at the worst time it could have. We had just experienced obviously the rain with the snow melt and warmer temperatures with still frozen ground. So we had basically an impervious ground surface with rain and snow melt coming off the site. In talking with the contractor, the property, this pavement rather, was swept the day before the rain event on Wednesday afternoon. And the outlet control structure was the seal and the board that was covering that structure was inspected. Unfortunately, the water level within that stormwater basin was below the opening of the outlet control structure. So while we observed the seal, it wasn't possible to see that the seal was not functioning. And I think that's ultimately what happened. If I could share my screen, I can let you know what we've implemented.
I think you
Since
should
then.
be able to now,
Okay,
but let me
yes,
know if not.
sure. So in working with Ted, we've implemented a program here to address the issues. I think part of the main reason was the failure at the outlet control structure. I know there's some on-site practices that are being addressed. Namely, we had installed dedicated stabilized construction entrances for each of the lots that were that are being constructed or being prepared for construction. Unfortunately, the equipment operators were not utilizing those construction access pads. They were just driving over the land onto the pavement, which tracked a lot of sediment onto the pavement. Those are some of the reasons that the pavement had sediment on it. With respect to the outlet control structure, the contractor removed the OSB, which is basically a wood board, and replaced it with a sheet of steel with a rubber gasket around the edge and bolted that into the concrete. So it is a much more solid and reliable seal to block any stormwater that goes into the basin from entering those downstream resources. And I have photographs of that I'll show you in just a few moments. We also had S&M Farms come out and install, additional compost sock and siltation fencing along the length of Fitch Avenue, which is basically going to force the contractor and the equipment operators to utilize those stabilized construction entrances. It really wasn't possible to do that earlier because of the frozen ground conditions, and we need to tow in the silt fence, which really can't be done when the ground is frozen. And we had a very short window, frozen ground conditions and the rain event, and we really weren't able to do that in advance of the rain event, but it is done now. We installed roughly 2,400 linear feet along both sides of the pavement. There is one 200-foot section that will be done on Friday after the contractor installs a utility duct, which parallels the one side of the pavement of Fitch Avenue. On Friday, Hydrograss Technologies will be visiting the site to apply additional seed, straw, tackifier, and earth stop to exposed areas on the property. Most of the seed, straw, tackifier that was applied in early January held, but there are some sections along the roadway shoulders that the tackifier did not take as well as it should have because the ground was frozen at the time. The ground is thawed at this point, so we're confident that this is going to adhere much better. We'll be tackifying all along the perimeter drains, exposed areas on lots 8 and 9, the loam pile that's out there, and other areas on the site that are exposed. We also installed additional flock logs within the drain manholes and catch basins within Fitch Avenue to further allow for sediment dropout before water enters that offsite basin. And lastly, prior to the turbidity release on March 5th, street sweeping typically occurred once per week. Going forward, street sweeping will occur 3 times per week to remove as much sediment as possible from the pavement. Below are some photographs. You can see here, this is the outlet control structure of the stormwater basin across the street. This is the steel plate with the rubber gasket that was bolted into the concrete. We're very confident in the integrity of this in terms of keeping the basin water out of the basin and off of and out of downstream stormwater infrastructure and resource areas. This is the sketch that was given to S&M Farms. The red represents silt fence and compost sock that was installed today, and this last section here will be installed on Friday. This photograph was taken today and shows the silt fence installed all along the pavement road. Again, forcing contractors to utilize the stabilized construction entrances and forcing contractors to park in their designated parking areas instead of parking half onto the road and half onto the land adjacent. This here is a sketch plan that Ted put together for Hydrograss Technologies to show where the seed straw tackifier and earth stop will be applied. You can see it's along the roadway shoulders and along portions of lot 8 and 9. And the second sheet shows the along the perimeter drains and the loam pile here. The last page shows the representative photographs of the additional flock logs that were installed within the drain manholes and really within the downstream pipes of the drain manholes and catch basins along Fitch Avenue. So that kind of provides an overview of our response to this. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but you know, going forward with these measures, in particular, this blocking of the outlet control structure on the offsite basin, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape going forward. So with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to the commission and happy to discuss further.
All right. So I have to just start out by saying it's quite disappointing that we're here again. You know, I think it's third time in a row. And we're kind of chasing our tails instead of being proactive once again. I think we're going into the worst season right now. Like you said, with the freeze and the thaw and the rain in the spring. So we should be anticipating the worst case scenarios, especially for this site, having already gone through this a couple times. So I think, you know, the commission is really not going to be very tolerant on what's going on over here. We really need proactive, and blaming the contractors for not using construction entrances. I mean, this again is a repetitive theme here where, you know, we blame the contractors for not following the tree clearing line in the violation, you know, early on in the project. So the oversight on this project needs to be tighter. Absolutely has to be. We really can't be coming in here after every single rain event and fixing things. We need to be proactive. So that can't be a reason, blaming the contractors for not following the rules. It's the job of the developer and the people overseeing this plan to make sure that the contractors are following and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think that, you know, replacing that board with the steel plates and the seal there is key. Appreciate that. I think that'll make a big difference. Did you have to pump out that basin in order to put the steel plate in to get to that water level that was in that picture?
I believe the contractor did have to pump out the structure or the basin, but if you looked at the photographs, the water's pretty clear at that point. Let me go back here.
So the reason I ask is I just wonder, you know, that basin, because it is a detention basin, I don't think it's infiltrating much. Do you have pumps? Do you have a plan in place that when this basin fills up, that it gets emptied when the water clears before the next storm?
Yeah, let me share my screen once more. This photograph was taken today, and you can see the water within the basin is pretty clear that a lot of the sediment settled out. And there is a valve here to allow for release of water once it has cleared. Obviously, we're not going to release turbid water.
Mhm.
But that's the plan, to allow minimize the turbidity that enters the basin. To the extent turbidity enters the basin or is stirred up by way of water entering the basin, let that turbidity settle out before the clean water is released downstream.
Through the
I think
chair.
I would appreciate another kind of level, because again, we're going into the spring and you can have back-to-back storms and this thing fills up and it's not settled out yet to release through that valve. I think it would be prudent for there to be silt bags and pumps on site, in the case that, you know, this basin does fill up and you need a backup plan.
Through the chair, I haven't fully explored this yet, but have a concept in mind at least of you know, a recirculating pump and maybe some powdered flock in that scenario where we've got another storm coming, and you know, if the basin remains turbid, to try to circulate, and I can formulate a better plan probably in writing and submit it, but I think conceptually that might work.
Okay, yep, I'd appreciate that. Another question I had was at the intersection of Fitch and Myrtle, there was a big pile of dirt. What's
Yeah,
going on with that?
there's sand, there's a pile of sand that's being used as backfill for the utility duct that's being installed along Fitch Avenue and eventually Myrtle. I had instructed the contractor to install a compost sock around the base of that. Fortunately, that material is comparatively coarse to some of the really fine material that we're seeing getting through the silt sacks and things. So it is less of a concern, although it is a concern. It is a pile of material. It's an active pile, but it does need to have erosion control measures around it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd appreciate something around there. It was very windy on Friday, Saturday, walking around there, and it just looked like there was dust blowing off that pile.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit of a red flag. I also question the frequency of sweeping. I think you said every 3 times a week or every 3 days.
It had been once a week
Mhm.
prior to this event, and I would add, while you know, I understand that we're in a place that no one wants to be, but subsequent to making those corrections in the beginning of January, we did have a number of rain events where we went out to the site and inspected and took photographs, and we had no turbidity leaving the site. The water leaving the site was clear.
Mhm.
So we did feel as though we were on a good track. I think it was the broken seal at that outlet control structure that did us in this time, if you will. But getting back into your question with respect to street sweeping, going forward, we're looking at street sweeping 3 times a week as opposed to 1, so 3 times the amount.
Can we make sure that there's sweeping before a forecasted rain event,
Yes.
regardless of the schedule?
Yep. And I think that's part of the intent there, is to coordinate with the street sweeping contractor
Mhm.
to obviously get them out there 3 days a week, but of course to time that as best we can with forecasted rain.
Those were my high points. I'll open it up to the other commission members for thoughts and comments.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
I had a quote that I was going to read, and Ted, thank you very much for giving me the intro when you said try, and I thought about Yoda. There is no try. There's do or not do. This has been an example of poor management, poor timing. I am just dumbfounded. And there's no other way to put it. That you don't manage the equipment operators and they're allowed to go, they were, I will say, allowed to go willy-nilly. That is incredibly poor job site management. And I'll shut up now before I get really irate.
Melissa, Jim,
Yes, Jim.
thank you for all you said. First of all, Melissa, it's all spot on. And I don't know, dumbfounded, I'm not sure what the right word is, but I'm no longer shocked that this stuff happens. Do contractors and developers have weather apps or any way of knowing what the weather's going to be? And to be out there to look and see ahead of time what's going to happen and then respond to it? I mean, it is incredible to blame a contractor. Yeah, they should know what's going on, but they only know what's going on if they're being told by the developer. And the developer needs to be there, project manager on site, superintendent. Somebody's got to be there all the time with these contractors. Anyway, sadly, I'm not shocked by another one of these events, but that's it.
Thanks, Jim.
I would add that I do hear you loud and clear, and we're not solely placing the blame of this at the feet of the contractor on the site. But you know, there were a number of practices that contributed to the problem. So
I want to add something else, Melissa. You started out by saying that this happened at the worst possible time. I'll tell you something. Every time we get a violation like this, it happened at the worst possible time. How come nobody can predict what the worst possible time is going to be?
Yep.
That's called construction management, construction supervision, construction oversight.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else have thoughts or comments on this or how to proceed?
Melissa, I don't know if I have any thoughts necessarily on how to proceed. I'll echo the other commission members that this is maddening. Ted, we and the Toll Brothers have had some really good conversations where we've worked together well, but at this point, after the Chamberlain Wayland violations that we had multiple, and now the 3 that we've had in the last 4 months, I'm at the end of my rope with Toll Brothers. I don't know that I ever want to see Toll Brothers come to Hopkinton again after what we're dealing with. And I certainly don't know enough about the business operations to lay blame at your feet, Ted, but you're the face from Toll Brothers that we get to see. And it's unbelievable that we're doing this over and over. And I don't think we've ever levied a fine against Toll Brothers. What we get is a whole bunch of I'm sorries. We get a whole bunch of, boy, this was a weird weather event that we couldn't have predicted. I don't think we've ever got anything except for that. And we've never fined Toll Brothers. And I wonder what Toll Brothers has done after agreeing to the plans ahead of time, which were supposed to include certainties that this wasn't going to happen. Have there ever been steps to say, let's give back to the neighborhood that we are destroying is too strong a word, that we are harming? Ever give back to the town whose water resources we are harming repeatedly? Or is the thought just to take your tongue lashing in this meeting and then move on?
I'll start by saying, look, I share your disappointment, and as Rich pointed out, we're not here to put the blame at other people's feet. This is our responsibility and our problem to manage. So I'll start with that. In terms of have we been fined here before? No, we haven't. And look, I understand the frustration. I understand sort of the mindset that everyone's in. I am disappointed also. And, we would continue to work to get things better. But I know that's not what this commission wants to hear. So we need to make it right, and we're here to put forth that effort. And Ed, I know there is no try, but we're going to continue to work at it.
I think as far as moving forward, the plan that you presented makes sense. I think there's a couple things obviously that we talked about that still needed to be done to get that plan in place. Your backup plan for the pumping, or if the basins are full, getting the rest of the erosion control on site, the hydrograss on Friday, the rest of the erosion controls in the blue on your map there. I think we need to hold up any permits until those things are taken care of, from the town's perspective. I think that's probably more incentive than fines for, this type of a project of this scale. Does anyone on the commission have thoughts on that? Does that make sense at this point in time?
Melissa, I have one very specific thing from something you said. So, Rich, you mentioned that you've instructed the contractors, which sounds to me like they haven't done it yet, to put some straw wattles, something around the base of that sand pile. And yet, Melissa, when you were out there, those are never going to stop the wind from blowing the sand off places. Can we be tarping the piles as well? Can we be putting stuff around the bottom and tarping, and the tarps are returned at the end of every single day, and let the contractors have to deal with that annoyance? But it's you're the bosses of the contractors. Make them do what you need them to do. And if that includes tarping so that the wind isn't blowing stuff away the way it was the day Melissa visited, it seems like that's a pretty obvious move.
We can do that.
I think that's a fair ask, Ted. And Ted. Both of you.
Melissa, this is Ed. I have a question.
Yep.
Does anyone know what the quantity of rain was that we got in this event?
I do not know off the top of my head. Something we could find out though, unless you know, Rich.
I believe it was roughly 3/4 of an inch. There are a number of weather stations kind of surrounding Hopkinton that are reliable on the NOAA website. And I think it was around 3/4 of an inch.
Through the chair, this is Ed. That was my impression. And the 3/4 of an inch rainstorm is not a big deal.
Yeah, it's a good point, Ed, and that's, I think, gonna be key in Ted's backup plan here that I'm looking for, where these basins, because you should be able to kind of calculate to a degree what that volume will be and what he needs to plan for once that basin fills up.
We
So
can enlist our engineering team to give that detail.
Okay, great. Because I think it got pretty high from that 3/4 inch. I think I don't know what it ended up being in that basin. Obviously, water was going through the seal anyway. So.
Through the chair.
One more comment. Hello? You guys, you chose to work at this time of year. This is the kind of things that you would expect at this time of year. Ground to be frozen, rain to come, no place for the water to go, and you were not prepared. I'm sorry. I am beside myself. I'm done.
Anna, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just that in addition to the 3/4 inches of rain, there was also a lot of snow melt and ice melt. So it wasn't just a 3/4 inch storm. I think the volume was quite a bit higher. But yeah, that basin was fuller than I've ever seen it. And we've definitely had bigger storms than 3/4 of an inch since they've been working. So just to clarify that.
No, that's a good point. Good point. Thank you. Okay. I think you have your marching orders, Ted and Rich.
Yes, we'll follow up with the commission again Friday afternoon after these items have been addressed, and provide some photographs We are also supposed to get some rain over the weekend, Sunday into Monday. So we're going to be out there first thing Monday morning.
Okay.
Well, we're going to be out there Friday and Saturday, ensuring that we're in the right spot, and then again Monday morning.
Okay, great. That'll be a good test run. Anna and Judy, do you need anything else on us as far as the follow-up and town side of things, as far as permits and whatnot to follow this?
So through the chair.
Yep.
I checked the building department records. Looks like there's 8 active permits on the site. 4 are actually under construction out of those 8. And then there's 1 pending application in the office.
Okay.
So that was my calculation that I had so far.
Okay, so I want to hold up on that pending application until we're comfortable.
Do
Okay,
you want to ask if, like, I don't know the timing of the additional 4 lots. I know right now there's some struggle with the amount of mud and being able to get equipment in there and getting stuff ready. So I don't know if at least a friendly hold off on starting those other 4 until these other measures have been in place. If that's something the commission wants.
yeah, I think that would be appreciated. All right, Ted. Merchant,
Understood.
okay,
I appreciate your time, and again, sorry that we're here again.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. So being that it's after 7:30, we'll jump up to the new hearing that we have. I'm gonna read to open this up. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Tyler DeWolf to raise and replace an enlarged single-family house with associated site work. Location 47 Oakhurst Road, Assessor's Map R28, Block 114, Lot 0.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrew Tebow, wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting, and I have Tyler DeWolf, the homeowner, on the call as well.
All right, great.
Through the
Welcome.
chair, before we
Yes.
start, I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion and voting. I am in a butter on the project.
Okay, thanks, Janine.
Sure.
Thank you. If I have permission to share my screen, we actually have a colored up version of the plans that might make it a little bit easier to read. I know you guys received a plan set that had existing and proposed conditions on one sheet.
Yep, I think you should be able to grab the screen.
Perfect. Yeah, I can steal it right now. Can you guys see this all right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I will start with the existing conditions, and then I will flip the screen and it'll go over to proposed. So the subject site here is 47 Oakhurst Road in Hopkinton. It's about a 0.17 acre parcel, and it's bound by Lake Maspinock to its rear. A bit of an interesting case that's not so typical with these applications is it did not require a formal delineation. As the commission's probably aware, many of the homes in this area are bound by this concrete retaining wall that acts as the bank of Lake Maspinock. It firmly separates the upgradient developments from the lake itself. And so by surveying the top of the retaining wall and using the upgradient most portion, they're able to extrapolate all of the buffer zones onto the property on the site plans here. So it's worth noting that the commission wouldn't have received a formal delineation report with this application, but the notice of intent would still entail all of the buffer zones. So this property has been developed since about 1965. Currently on site is an 800 square foot single family house with about an 856 square foot driveway off Oakhurst Road. Because of the small lot size, layout, and the proximity to Lake Maspinock, just about the entirety of the parcel is within the 100-foot buffer zone. So we have a total impervious surface cover on site at present of about 3,850 square feet, which about 3,350 square feet of that is within the buffer zone. There's a small portion of the driveway that is located outside of the buffer zone. At present, since this is pre-existing property before the Wetlands Protection Act or the local bylaw, There is no stormwater management on this property. It's a very gradual decline back towards Lake Maspinock, and so stormwater tends to run mostly untreated towards the lake. And so what the notice of intent has proposed, if we can see my next page here. Perfect, is to raise the existing dwelling on the property and to construct a larger 1,731 square foot house and to relocate the driveway to the corner of the site that we see here. The applicant has already received permission from the ZBA to do this. They went through the formal process and were actually able to receive permission for a 20-foot front yard setback here. The existing house is about 30 feet, so it helps them push as far as possible on the front of the lot, trying to keep the limit of work as far from possible from Lake Maspinock. The actual project itself only results in about a 230 square foot total impervious surface increase on the lot. About 381 square feet is increased within the buffer zone with a net reduction outside of the buffer zone. And they were able to do that by working over significant areas of the previous dwelling, the previous driveway. And as we can see here, much of the property is landscaped and hardscaped all the way to the bank of Lake Maspinock. At this point, we received our DEP file number. DEP had a few comments surrounding the existing dock and the potential for the commission to review mitigation plantings for the increase in impervious surfaces with this project. I know the commission's peer review consultant is still working through the field review and the notice of intent review. And Judy Day has given us a few comments so far in the application. I think most important to note tonight is that Judy had noted that a lot of the hardscape that we see in the rear of the property appears to have been done without a permit around 2020. My notice of intent included some permitting history on the project. So back in the fall of 2020, it was in November, this property came forward to the commission for a minor project exemption. There were cracks in the concrete wall acting as the bank of Lake Maspinock that needed repair. And at the time, the homeowner was looking to repair the concrete wall and to rebuild a bit of a retaining wall on the property. From reviewing the old meeting minutes and the old footage, it seems like there was some pretty good discussion back and forth on the work proposed, but there was some more information requested before the commission wanted to issue a vote. And it seems like that work was carried out around 2020, and now in 2025, it's here, but we don't believe it was under an active order of conditions. So I've been talking to Judy and with the homeowners as well. Our hope, at least at this point, with the preliminary comments from Judy and pending the remainder from the commission's peer review consultant, is to revise the notice of intent application to include all of the previous work, the hardscape work that's been done in the rear of the property, as well as all of the proposed improvements and redoing the single family house. So far for mitigation, what we have proposed is the installation of extensive stormwater management. We can see that there's two pairs of dry wells in the front of the property and in the back. So the new project has proposed to hook up all of the gutters. The front gutters are serviced to the pairs of dry well in the front of the property, and the back gutters to the dry well in the rear. DEP had also mentioned mitigation plantings as a potential for mitigation and improvements over existing conditions. And so at this point, this is what we have for a proposal so far. We're awaiting comments from your peer review consultant, but we plan to come back with a revised letter addressing Judy's comments and to look to work with the commission to bring all the previous work and the work proposed under one notice of intent application. But if we have any preliminary questions on the work proposed or what's to come, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, thank you for that presentation. I guess I'll start by, I'm gonna have to go back and review the meeting that you're referring to with the discussion on the hardscape. I remember the retaining wall. I remember talking through that and that it was just, we're fixing it in place. It wasn't gonna encroach in the lake or anything like that. I remember talk of the retaining walls. I really would be surprised as a commission if we approved all that hardscape without any type of a filter strip buffer being incorporated. You don't have any plan. You're saying that all of this was just discussion in the meeting with the commission?
I don't know the extent of the hardscape discussion in that meeting. I know the meeting itself was focused around the retaining wall. And then there was sort of a hand-drawn plan with some discussion of work that was requested, but I don't know how much of it was reviewed in detail, which is why we certainly want to include it in this notice of intent now as sort of a separate item and look to permit that after the fact.
Through the chair.
Yes, Judy.
Yeah, just wanted to confirm that we don't have an exemption letter on file for the request made to do the work on the retaining wall. And I would also point out that at the time, the commission had asked the applicant for more information on whether the stairs in the retaining wall were going to be extending past sort of flush with the retaining wall or not. And I don't believe that information was received. So I think that would be good to know where that stands.
Yeah, I think to just jump to the conclusion that this is existing hardscape that we're, you know, obviously it does need to be reviewed and after the fact reviewed as part of this notice of intent. But I don't know that category, you know, putting that in the category of existing and then saying that you're actually decreasing impervious area by replacing this building is a valid point to the commission. So do you have that meeting date handy, either Judy or Andrew?
I want to
Through the
say it was
chair.
November 10th.
Yeah, November 10th, 2020. Judy and I did review the minutes and rewatch the HCAM video. And the sketch that was provided was only talking about I think the wall that you can see kind of individual rocks that's kind of at the edge of the pink here, and then repairing the wall along the lake, along the bank. And the stairs were discussed. And the commission did not want them extending into the water and asked for more detail before they would be willing to approve it. And I was not able to find any further correspondence after that meeting. And a formal approval was not given, and the sketch plan doesn't show any of the hardscape. The existing deck off the shed was not on there. The bar wasn't on there. It was just the two walls and the set of stairs.
Yeah, do you have that handy, either Judy or Andrew? I looked at it in the application package, the sketch, the original sketch that was provided in there.
Judy, I don't know if you can grab it. It's in the 2020 exemptions.
Yeah.
Anna, did you say that was November 10th, 2020?
Correct, of 2020.
Right, November 10th. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to share the screen, to steal the screen share if you want to pull up that old plan.
I think it's important for the commission to look at that old plan if that's what we're basing our assumptions on as far as what, you know, we approved before versus what we're looking at now for the current NOI.
Another thing we will be able to do, although I don't believe there was a full survey plan available at that time, there are some pretty high quality aerials that were available. So as we look forward, we're going to obviously continue this meeting and come back. So we'll, as part of the effort to permit this after the fact, we can provide some graphics and some measurements on old aerials to see what was there previously, what's there now, and discuss it from a stormwater management standpoint as well.
That would be helpful. Are you familiar with what the commission has been asking of applicants along Lake Maspinock lately, as far as, I mean, we've been doing it for years now, looking to improve the water quality of the lake and the conditions by having homeowners incorporate a buffer strip, a planting buffer strip, not lawn, something that is from like the wall or the lake edge toward the property to filter out runoff.
I actually
That's
wasn't familiar with that off the bat, but upon DEP's comment and then Judy's preliminary, I did actually meet with the homeowners last Friday, and we had a discussion about the potential for some good mitigation plantings to be used on this property, and they had expressed being absolutely open to that. And so I think that that's definitely a proposal that we can come back with.
Okay, that'd be great.
Through the chair, Andrew, can you stop screen sharing for a second? Because it's pulling it up strangely, like you can either pick Judy's screen or her screen. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so this just talks about the walls exclusively.
Yeah. That's right. I remember this plan. It provides reference to an existing patio, but it doesn't show its coverage. And so I think that might be something that we can try to measure using, at least approximating using aerial photography to see what was there at this time.
Mhm.
The chair, Joe?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think some of the photos that were provided in the application also show the pre-existing conditions at the time that they requested the initial work on the walls.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I did see some. It looked like a lot of grass to
Right,
me.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
I also
The homeowner had a few photos.
I also did have a chance to get out to the site this morning
Okay.
and take a look at it. I know there was a comment made about not having to delineate any wetlands above the retaining wall. But I know as the commission is aware, there have been other locations along the lake where we have had BBW fringe above that wall. I did do some augers this morning. The water or the soil was still fairly frozen, but I did get some augers through. And there is hydric soil above that wall. So there's not much for wetland vegetation at this point because of the season and because it's mowed low. But there is hydric soil, so I would recommend that the applicant have that delineated also as far as what the edge of the wetland hydric soil is.
Okay.
And then Melissa, may I just ask Joe a quick follow-up?
Yeah, go for it.
Would that then mean that the buffer lines need to move closer to the road if we have those soils inside of the retaining wall?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I think, I'm not sure who has the screen, Judy or Andrew, but I think if you scroll up a couple pages, there's the old pictures. Keep going. Yeah. Yeah, so that looks quite different.
It doesn't look like a ton of hardscape at all.
No. Okay. Does anyone else on the commission have any feedback at this point in time?
Through the chair, this is Ed. I'm looking at an aerial, but unfortunately, I have no idea of the date except that this app is usually semi-current, and it shows pretty heavy vegetation, and I can't tell whether it's a tree or a bush or whatever across the whole lakefront of the property. Like I said, I do not know the age of the picture, so it may not be relevant.
Okay.
Thank you, Ed. And I think it's worth noting, as we had said, we're going to come back with a revised letter looking to analyze and permit this after the fact. And that's going to include dated aerial imagery, approximate measurements, timelines of work that was done. And we will have our engineers take a look at this from a pre and post hardscape installation for stormwater management and some of these calculations. So we can provide clarification on all of this being discussed right now.
Okay, that would be great.
Melissa,
yes,
Melissa,
Jim.
through you, I just want to say that I'm sure Goddard has a copy of that sort of ideal plan for the lakefront because they've done work on other properties there, and I would think that we've produced that for them.
Mhm.
But if we have a copy of it, can we send it to them?
Through the chair, I did send over the healthy lakeshore landscaping, but
Oh,
happy
good.
to send it again if needed.
Well, if they don't have it, but thank you, Judy.
Yep, we haven't. We will absolutely take that into account. So thank you for providing that.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments on this one? Can raise your hand or speak. I don't see any, so
Melissa,
yes, Ted.
I would just say before Andrew, we go away. The commission's been burned a bit on Lake Maspinock with some other plans we've seen where people don't follow through on what we've asked. So I, for one, as a commission member, am very much going to want to see robust plantings along the lakeshore. That 50-foot buffer is going to be sacrosanct for me. So if we have to redraw it, already the initial proposal for the new building goes inside the 50-foot buffer. And if that line is going to shift, I'm going to need to see the new building shrink pretty impressively for me to be able to entertain this. Just to let you know off the bat.
I appreciate the feedback. Absolutely. I am happy to take a look at the bordering vegetated wetland comment, and I'm sure that will be in the peer review consultant's letter. I do know this property was developed prior to the Wetlands Protection Act or local bylaw, so there is a possibility that it was fully lawn and maintained up to that area prior, and there may be hydric soils due to the proximity, but it wasn't going to meet the criteria for a wetland. But having not done a delineation on the site, I will certainly take a look at it, and we will address that in our response. I would also expect to have a planting plan that comes through from us to include supervising and monitoring post installation to make sure that anything you guys do approve is adhered to as well.
Thanks.
So do you think that continuing out to our next meeting gives you enough time to get all that together? Or the next meeting is March 25th. After that is April 8th.
I believe so. I think we should continue just to that at this point. If we find that we need more time, I'll try to reach out in advance and request a continuation. But I think to keep this fresh and moving along, we'll definitely aim for that meeting.
Okay. Can I get a motion then to continue this out to March 25th?
This is Ed, so moved.
A second?
Ted will second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
All right.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. Janine abstaining. All right, so you're all set. We'll see you on the 25th.
Sounds good. Thank you all. We'll see you then.
Yep. So next up we have 12 Maple Street Extension. This is a continuation notice of intent.
Hi, folks. Chris Latterly from Goddard Consulting on behalf of the applicant, Nick and Kathleen D'Angelo. And if we don't mind, I will go ahead and share my screen. I think at the, yeah, we can work with that. That looks good. Well, at our last hearing, well, I suppose just to recap a bit, we are proposing a new single-family dwelling here at 12 Maple Street Extension with a subdivided lot. We have essentially a total encircling of wetland resources here, and that 50-foot buffer zone encompasses a good portion of the site, and the entire site is located within the 100-foot buffer zone. We've so far managed to reorient things and get that house outside of the 50-foot buffer. I do just want to note again that this is all over existing lawn area. So in any case, that house is outside of the 50-foot buffer. We've implemented some vegetated pavers in the driveway in the area where we are trying to provide a turnaround for the fire department, and fire prevention in Hopkinton has confirmed to us that those pavers are sufficient to support their vehicles. So we're looking good on that front. I believe the last two remaining comments that arose at the last hearing were providing a riprap pad or crushed stone sump or something of that sort at the sump pump discharge point in that northwestern corner, which has been added to the plans here. It's a little covered up under some of those sweet pepper bush circles there, but we are adding that riprap pad to prevent any scour from that sump pump discharge. The second comment that we've gone ahead and addressed was to match our planting strip along that northern property line to what was approved at 7 and 9 Montana Road immediately to the north. So we had maybe a little bit of a miscommunication at first, had shown that as a 10-foot planting strip, which I think had been submitted to you folks. I don't know if it had actually been disseminated to the commission yet, but we on Judy's notation, we did realize we were looking at an outdated version of that plan from Montana Road to the north. So we did go ahead and increase that planting strip. Now the area that we're planting is 15 feet wide, and that actually is 15 feet from the tree line. So we end up with a vegetated buffer along that swale ranging from more like 20 to 25 feet, pushing 30 in a couple of those corners there. So that is the overview of the changes we've made so far. Really, that riprap pad at the sump pump discharge and expanding that planting zone along the northern property line. And those were really the last two comments that the commission had at our last meeting. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. And yeah, I think that covers it.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers what I remember we were looking for as well. Judy and Anna, did you get a copy of this plan here with the 15 feet and the riprap pad?
Yes, we did. Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Do either you or Joe have any last thoughts on this one?
Through the chair, I guess my only comment was the footprint of the planting area looks very similar to the old plan. So I'm wondering if the addition of the 15-foot scale is the only change that was made. And if so, if the commission is, comfortable with that serving as, confirming that that buffer is 15 feet, because I'm not totally sure if the shape was physically changed between plans. But I think that's my only sort of outstanding comment.
Mhm.
There is, through the chair,
Yep.
if there's a desire to see it, this is a scaled drawing. I can pull it up and measure it real quick in real time if we'd like to see that.
So the line is measuring to the greenish gray
Yeah,
background.
correct. Yeah, that green polygon right there is the 15-foot strip, and we end up with closer to 20 or 25 feet if you measure it to the actual blue line, which is the bank of that stream.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think that's clear to me. I see the black dash line continuing on to the south of the page, so I think that's the limit of disturbance or work during construction. I assume the dashed.
Right. Yeah,
And-
that is the proposed erosion control here. In the interest of not revising the plan for the umpteenth time, we did go ahead and just kind of draw our planting area on top of what we already had rather than adjusting that small section of the line there. So if the commission would like to see an updated version, just making those two things consistent, we'd be happy to provide that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on this one from the commission?
Through
I would just like to
chair.
say really quickly, I would like to see the updated plan. I'd love for it to be as perfect as we can get it. It's not like we're hand drawing these anyway, so just
Yep.
some clicks on the keyboard, I think ought to fix that and make it proper.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can get that submitted for you folks.
Through
Joe?
the chair. Oh,
Sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, I did look at the proposed plantings and the density and the species look appropriate. I might have missed it. I know from my notes from last time, there was going to be some stone added at the sump pump discharge, and was that done?
Yes, that is, I did mention that earlier. It's
Okay.
covered up under a couple of sweet pepper bush circles
Okay.
there, but it is shown there, yes.
Okay, yep. And Janine?
Yeah, so just looking for the PIBs, I see one reference to a PIB at the bottom of that grayish green section, but I don't see any others. Is it along that black dotted line?
So yeah, they're shown along this black dotted line here on the civil plan
Oh, I was looking
that
at
we
the one
have
with the
up in
coloring.
front of us.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that kind of cuts off some of the important information here in the interest of being a more usable scale. But yep, the civil plans do show those PIBs along the entire perimeter there.
Yeah, I see them. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
And what are the PIBs? Are we talking about a fence? Are we talking about stakes?
There's a note, if we scroll up just a tiny bit, they're 4x4 PT posts sunk into the ground with conservation plaques.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I think especially looking at this plan, for consistency, like you said, Ted, that line will come down straight to meet the 15. Oh, so it's not just shown on the planting plan, but shown on this civil plan as well, and those PIBs will come down to be along the bushes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get that change made for you folks and get that submitted to you.
Okay. On the commissioner, are we comfortable voting on that and issuing our vote contingent on receipt of the plan?
I'm good with that, Melissa.
Are you looking for a motion?
I'm good with that.
Yes, I am. If everyone's good with that, sounds like they are. So I'll take a motion
And we should include with signatures?
with signatures. Yep, and by Anna or Judy.
So I don't want to rephrase the motion. If it's understood that that's the motion, I'll make it.
All right, thanks, Ted, for that motion.
And I will second that understood motion.
All in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim? You there, Jim? You're muted if you are. Come back. Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye, I guess. Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
I am also an aye. Jim, one last chance? All right, it'll carry with those votes.
Beautiful. Well,
You're all
folks,
set.
we appreciate you working with this guy, and we'll get that updated plan to you shortly.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
All right. Next up we have 18 Falcon Ridge Drive, request for COC. Judy or Anna, you want to go through this one?
Yep, happy to. Just pulling up the plans. Here we go. So this was an original order issued back in 2022 for septic replacement, installation of a pool house, outdoor kitchen, patio, and site grading. The changes reported by the applicant were pool house larger than what was proposed. That is right here. Chain link fence was added between the fireplace and the pool house and between the fireplace and the house, which we do have on the plan now. And a foundation drain had been added to the pool house foundation that wasn't on the original plan. Joe had a couple of comments that have since largely been resolved. So he had mentioned the erosion controls should be removed, except in certain areas, so west of the pool house and southeast of the septic. We are waiting for confirmation of the erosion control removal prior to recommending, or prior, I guess we're waiting to hear from the homeowner that those have been pulled out, but he is aware that they should be pulled out prior to receiving the certificate. Joe had also noted that there's a 4-inch drain pipe that discharges to the lawn in this area past the deck. So that hadn't been indicated on the original as-built, but we do have it on the updated as-built, so that's been resolved. There was a PIB that had fallen off of a maple west of the septic system. So we have since gotten confirmation that that was reattached. So I believe it was this one right here. So we have pictures of that back on the tree. In the sort of circular paving area around the well, this wasn't on the original plan, but has since been added to the as-built. So there's not many outstanding items except for erosion controls being pulled out. So I think it's sort of our recommendation that the commission vote to approve the COC, and then Anna and I will wait to issue until we've been able to confirm that those are out.
Okay.
I believe that's everything.
Great. That seems pretty straightforward to me. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this? Or Joe, you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right. That being said, can I get a motion to issue the COC pending confirmation that erosion controls are removed and with signatures by Judy or Anna?
I'll make that motion. I'm back.
You're back.
Sorry, that happened. I lost connection at the worst possible time.
That's all right.
Never could have predicted it.
I see what you did there, Jim. I'll second.
All right, all in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
All right.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye. So that's all set. All right. Do we have any public forum requests? Anything come in last minute? No? Judy, you're on mute.
Oh, nope, nothing.
Okay. Awesome. All right. It's another quick one.
Melissa,
Yes.
given that it is a quick one, I'm just looking at the meeting dates at the bottom of the agenda.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, Melissa, Judy, Anna, should we be talking about an in-person meeting? And I think that there was, I think it was in this commission and not in Zach, where there was talk that maybe the remote meeting law might not be extended much anymore. But we haven't had I know Ed prefers the in-person 100% of the time. I don't necessarily, but we haven't had an in-person for a while. I wonder if one of the ones that we have coming up should be in person. Is it too late to make them in person?
Yeah, I'm just looking online and it looks like March 31st, 2025 is the current extension. Or basically ends
Yeah,
the remote meeting law extension provision.
but it certainly could get renewed though.
It could get renewed, yep. So either,
So through the chair,
yes, Anna.
with newspaper deadlines, if it's not extended by March 24th, your April 8th meeting has to be in person unless we are very careful with how we word our hearing notices. So
Should we plan an in-person just to say we haven't had one for a while anyway, and then? I mean, again, I like being remote. I would do it this way. I know not everyone here agrees with me, but
I like remote. I miss you guys, but you know.
Well,
But-
so if you're looking at a date, by the way, April 25, I can't be in person. I could do it remotely, but I'll be gone. I mean,
Well, there
good
is
thing we're
no
not
April.
meeting on April 25.
March 25,
Oh,
mean,
really?
Jim?
no, never mind. When's our April meeting?
we have an April 8th and an April 29th.
That's the one. The 29th I can't attend in person. I could do it remotely.
So Anna, you mentioned that if it doesn't get extended with the timing, we'd have to meet in person April 8th, but if it expires March 21st, don't we have to meet in person March 25th? Like, I know we didn't give notices, but would we still have to?
It's good through March 31st, through the
Oh,
end
March
of
Yeah.
31st, I'm sorry, I thought I
Yeah.
said 21st.
Yeah, but it's just how we have to advertise ahead of the meetings and with our deadlines that we have to know before the end of March. So unless we don't have any new hearings for that April 8th meeting. So it's kind of up in the air right now.
Well, I mean, I guess we could either just see what happens at the end of the month, see if April 8th. Yeah, we could go either way. Or we could make
I
April.
don't have a strong feeling either. I just thought we might, especially since we have a little bit of time, kind of talk about it, but maybe
No,
maybe
it's-
the talk is, let's talk about it later.
I know. I don't know. Anna, do
Yes.
you have any thoughts?
Melissa,
Yeah.
if it's not extended, we would have time to advertise the next meeting as not in person. I mean, not remote, right? Or we would not have enough time?
We wouldn't have enough time for April 8th if we have new hearings. Because I have to go to the paper prior to March 31st.
Oh, okay.
But we could just do April
We
8th.
have no way of knowing. Yeah, we have no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we could-
sometimes they extend them early and sometimes they wait till the last second, and or they may not extend it at all. I mean, I know that there's support out there to make it permanent, but I don't know, what the legislature is gonna decide.
So
Well, I'll discuss. What do you all think about having 3 p.m. meetings?
3 p.m.
I
Might have
guess
a much
not.
Smaller you might have a much smaller commission.
Yeah.
You all gonna take some time off, that's all.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
using my vacation time for conservation committee meetings.
So do we want to make the 8th in person? Or do we want to
I'll defer because odds are I'm not going to be able to join either way on the 8th.
on the 8th? Okay.
And if we're in person on the 8th, will you celebrate by baking bread? Ed?
No,
No?
I can definitely do that, but I need to let you know that I've made my 3rd apple pie. And it's conceivable, it's not likely, it's conceivable I could make my 4th.
Yeah, but you gotta stop using crab apples though.
So I'll leave you with that thought.
So, Melissa, again, I don't have super strong feelings, but in the interest of just being nice and neat and not surprising, I'm proposing we go in person on the 8th. And maybe we're required to anyway, and if not, then we can go back remote on the 29th.
That makes sense to me. I'm up for that, Ted.
But we haven't seen each other in person for a while anyway, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We can go with that. Unless there's any major objections.
Works for me.
Okay.
No,
All right. Anything else that anybody wants to throw on the table? It's only
Through the
8:18.
chair.
Yes.
We are confirmed a booth at the farmers markets for the first Sunday of each month between June and October. So when we get a little closer, I can start looking for folks to sign up.
Awesome.
Nice work, Judy.
yeah, thank you, Judy. Sign me up.
For all of them.
Yeah.
I should be able to help when we get there too. Teaching
Yeah.
summertime
Well-
doesn't have a whole lot going on.
Okay, well, I've claimed the floor. I went to great efforts and I have written a letter in support of the Longwood Drive phosphorus mitigation plan. And I haven't gotten any feedback from anyone. Neither to the party to whom it was addressed, nor to from any of the parties who were copied, other than one who said that he had passed it along to the town manager. So I'm very interested to hear comments.
I'll get you some comments, Ed. Just give me a day.
I'll hit you up Thursday.
Okay,
Thank you for putting that together too.
you're
It's on my
welcome.
list.
And thank you to the nameless people who I promised I would not disclose who assisted me in the project.
Good stuff. All right, anyone else have anything? Nope, hearing none. Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
And a second.
All in favor, Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. All right, thank
Melissa,
you.
real quick
Yep.
before you boot everybody out, Matt Hodges, your COC is all approved. Judy and I will be in contact tomorrow with next steps for you. Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.
Okay.